in the story that St. Luke tells us today, all right, the Lord said about a rich man and a poor man, all right? And sometimes the sermon is more about, the virtues of the poor and then the vices of the rich, but that's not where I wanted to take it today. What I wanted to focus on is the poor man died and was carried by the angels into the bosom of Abraham. And when we hear this term, do we know what is meant by that? So, normally speaking, when we hear that, we think of maybe one thing, but we may not know the fullness of what it is that that term means. The way that it is in Greek is kolpos. Now, that can have a literal meaning to it. It can literally mean now, then the bosom, this area. So there's a medical identity. It is a physical place on the body. Is this what Jesus is talking about now? Of course not, all right? But when we hear this term, because it has a maternal sound to it, we associate it with its first meaning. Its first meaning is an embrace. So when we say in the bosom of Abraham or tu kolpos tu Avram, when we say that, we're talking about an embrace. We're talking about how God the Father now embraces us as His children and offers us the loving care that any mother would offer then her child. So this is usually what we think about. But as always in the gospel, there are deeper meanings. So this is a meaning. But now let's take what the next meaning might be. So kolpos can also then refer to a relationship that somebody has with another person. And that relationship is one of intimacy. Now, I'm not talking about sexual intimacy. I'm talking about an intimacy of deep love. And where do we see that? We see that in the Gospel of John when he's describing in his first chapter the relationship of the Son to the Father. And what does he say? No one has ever seen God, the only Son who is in the bosom of the Father, and He has made Him known. And so here, obviously, John is using the term bosom to represent the close relationship, the inseparable relationship that exists. And so this is a second and important meaning. But there's also then a third meaning. The third meaning is when in ancient times you were in the bosom of, it meant a title or a place of honor. We have that example when the disciples are now at the table, and in the Orthodox reading, in the Matins reading that we had that example here. Jesus asking Peter, "Do you love me?" the 3 times. And then he says to Peter, "Follow me." And Peter turned and saw following them the disciple whom Jesus loved, who had laid close to his breast in the kolpos. So here we see that place of honor at a dinner table. Okay? And that dinner table is symbolically, or actually, I shouldn't say symbolically, but it actually is that table by which we will feast then with Christ. And here's the fourth meaning for that. And that fourth meaning is that when that term is used, there is a hint of a banquet. So if you're going to dinner and you have that place of honor in the bosom of, you are usually at a dinner and you are celebrating that dinner. And the dinner that we will celebrate in the heavenly kingdom is the messianic banquet where all of us will feast. Certainly now, this is a heavenly banquet, but it's a temporal one. It is not the final one. So the first thing I wanted to say about this gospel reading is that to understand the deeper meaning behind the term bosom of Abraham, it has these four meanings, and in that totality, the warm and loving embrace that a mother gives to her child, the close relationship that one person has with another, the fact of it's a place of honor, and that it's usually referring to some type of feast or banquet, i.e. the messianic banquet. This is now the fullness of that term. So when we hear in the memorial service that we will do, you will hear me say the words at the end that a lot of times just go over our head. And what do I say? Establish the soul of your servant who has departed from us, and grant to him rest in the bosom of Abraham. And so what does that mean? Our prayers are those departed will experience the love that only God can give. They will experience the closeness of the relationship with Jesus Christ. That they will dine at a place of honor at the messianic banquet. And so when we say those words, that's what we mean. And so we have to take that to heart. Some people believe that the bosom of Abraham is something we have adopted from Judaism. But you will not find bosom of Abraham anywhere in the Old Testament. This came out of our Christian tradition. Now, later on, it was adopted by other religions, but it's only visible and this meaning is only visible now in the New Testament through the revelation of Jesus Christ, our God and Savior.